guys, Sarah Jane Critchley here, author of A Different Joy, The Parent's Guide to Living Better with Autism, Dyslexia, ADHD and more, and this is what the book looks like in case you're interested. I'm dead chuffed. Anyway, I'm sure you've seen it before. So, right, what I wanted to talk to you today was about sensory issues, because the way we experience the world, the way all of us experience the world, is through a filter. And the filter is the way that our body interacts with the things around us, and that's through our senses. So every single thing we experience is through that barrier, and that can cause us a huge amount of distress, anxiety and problems if things affect us more than we're able to cope with. So you all obviously know about the five senses. So sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. Sight is things you see with your eyes. Lots and lots of people, particularly in autism or with sensory sensitivities, have issues with light. So lots of people might find that if that were a fluorescent light and it was on, it would vibrate. It would actually flash. Sorry, not vibrate, but it flashes at a very high frequency. Some people are very sensitive and can see that frequency. Now you imagine a light flashing on and off in your eye all the time, and how distracting that would be, and how it would actually stop you from being able to interact in the normal way with all sorts of other things. And that can actually cause physical pain to people. So it can make things really difficult. Natural light is always better if you can. Can't do that today. It's too dark. It's England, it's getting dark. Okay, so sight, sound. Oh my word, in our family we're incredibly sensitive to sound. And there are two different aspects to all sensory issues. The sensory seeking, which means that you want more of something, and the sensory avoidant, which means you want less of something. So for people who are very visually sensitive, if they have trouble with really bright lights, they might want it darker. They might need to wear sunglasses, for example. If they are very visually sensitive and they like light, they might, like my little girl, be absolutely captivated by the dust motes that were twinkling in the hall in PE. No wonder she wouldn't get dressed, because she was tracing those dust motes and the way the light shone off them. Or there are people who like really shiny things or like sparkly things, and those are really captivating and really exciting. But it's a sensory issue, and if those things are happening, then your chance of being able to pay attention to the other things that are going on is that much less. Okay, so that's visual. Auditory, sorry, I did get slightly distracted then. Auditory is all about sound. Now, in our family we're very sensitive to sound. That can be a really good thing because it helps in terms of my singing. I can hear when people are singing something appalling in my ear, or in fact over the other side of the room, or I can hear if I'm hitting the wrong note, which happens quite often, or I can also hear things that I don't want to hear. So I'm incredibly sensitive to sound, to the sound of chewing. I can't bear the sound of chewing, particularly crunching apples. So if someone takes a bite out of an apple next to me at a lunch and they go that sound literally makes me feel so uncomfortable that I will often just get up and move away. Or I'll sit there if someone's chewing and crunching of boiled sweets in conferences and in meetings. You're probably not as old as I am, but there was a phase where you always had boiled sweets on the table whenever there was a meeting. And people just go, and that awful sound would just sets me on edge. I have been known to sit there as subtly as I can, sticking my finger in my ear to think, please make this stop, please make this stop, please make this stop. And I'm really verbal, really able, and quite capable of asking people not to chew in my ear. But some people can't do that. Some people just literally have to leave. It's fight or flight, you're out of here. It's too uncomfortable, you can't cope with it, you've got to go. So that's sound. There's also the wonderful story of my girl when she was in nursery. One of the places they lost her a lot. They lost her a lot in nursery school music lessons, which frankly to me seems perfectly sensible, because the cacophony of all those bits of stuff banging and crashing and clashing and making appalling noises, all of which clash at the same time, she would leave. And they'd find her in the toilet singing to herself, because the acoustics in toilets are amazing. Anybody who sings in the shower? Any of you? Do you sing in the shower? Okay, so I do, but yeah. Well, maybe if you do, you realise why, as the acoustics are wonderful. It's a lovely place to be. But for some people, some noises are incredibly painful. Being on the tube, for example, that appalling screeching sound when the I think they call them bogies, even on tube trains. I'm sure somebody, please in the comments, tell me what it's actually called. But anyway, when those the metal screeches against the rail, it makes that appalling loud noise. That can just send people flying. It can send people off and make them so anxious they have to get out. That's those of us who are able to get down into the tube at all, and plenty of us can't because of the issues about feeling constricted. So that's sight and sound. Taste. Taste is a big one. Now there are two different aspects. There's the taste of things when they're in your mouth, sweet, salt, savoury, umami. What a wonderful word that is, umami. It's that savoury sense that you get from Chinese food, things like soy sauce, that's really full. Anyway, so some people would love that. They love spicy food. They love eating curries and chilies and really, really hot stuff. Other people can't bear that and would always like something softer, something smoother. But there's also the textures of those foods in the mouth. So when I was young, I couldn't bear tapioca. In fact, I just won't eat anything like that at all, because the texture in my mouth just felt like sick, actually, which is just revolting. So I couldn't bear to eat any of that. Don't ask me why ambrosia creamed rice is a different thing. I think it might be to do with the size of the rice grains and the creaminess of the sauce, but for some reason tapioca's a big no-no and ambrosia creamed rice is a big yes, and I don't know why. Still, very, very sensitive. Other people can't bear the crunch of things, so will only have soft foods. Still other people only have beige food, so they'd eat white bread, noodles, crackers, cheese, but not anything that was green or anything that was red or healthy or useful. And that can cause all sorts of issues with diet, but we're talking about sensory issues right now. And also with sensory in the mouth, there is a thing about toothbrushing. And sometimes having the feeling of that brush in the mouth can feel quite painful, and people can feel really sensitive to that. So that's something to try and work with and be aware of. So it's textures in the mouth. We've talked a little bit about tastes, but textures and feel, how you feel with your clothes, for example, how things feel in your body is a really big issue. Now my daughter can't bear anything that's itchy, scratchy. So no silver. You know those lovely sparkly silver threads that you get sometimes in shirts that look gorgeous, but they are harsh. And if you're sensitive, if your skin's really sensitive, you can feel like they feel like they're cutting. They're actually physically cutting into your skin, and that's just unbearable. Personally, I can't wear wool. I can only wear nylon or mixes. I can't bear wool because it's just too scratchy, and by the time I've got that on me, I just literally want to pull the thing off, and preferably a bit of skin with it, because it's just so uncomfortable. So that's textures. Labels, oh my god, labels. Right from the tiniest thing, before I realised that anybody had any issues at all, we had a massive issue with labels in school uniform. And thank you to M&S for producing a range of school wear that doesn't have labels in. Their current cotton shirts, which are really lovely, have them printed on instead. They don't have them as separate labels, so it's not there to itch and scratch. So we have issues about knowing whose clothes they are and what sort of clothing it is, because we've had to take all the labels out. So we don't know what size anybody wears anymore. That's quite interesting when I go to buy new clothes, because I don't know what size they were, and I'm not sure what size the stuff that fits is. I just have to borrow somebody and buy it and try it on and then take it back when it doesn't fit. A lot. Tiring, but still. So that's kind of, I've got an itch now, sorry, that's just an example, isn't it? So that's around textures. And when those of us who like to fiddle to help us concentrate, sometimes called stimming, there are people who love to do things like this because it just feels so good. And I know there's one lovely autist who says that he raises stimming to an art. Larry, that's for you, which is just brilliant. It's all around how that looks, how light looks when it comes through your fingers. You should actually try it. It feels really nice. Things like the physicality of knowing where your body is in space. When it's moving, it makes life a lot easier to know where it is. So if you're touching something, like I'm touching the table, if I'm touching the pencil, if I'm touching the book, physically, my hands are on it, I can feel it. I know where my fingers end and where the thing begins. That gives me positive feedback, and that's why lots of people on the spectrum will do toe tapping, toe walking, tippy toe walking. It's because they have a different sense of balance and where their body can be. Another one that we often trip over is balance. That's really funny. Sorry. Lots and lots of people, including my family, are incredibly dyspraxic. That means that we have issues around gross motor coordination. So our balance is off. It's not very easy to walk in a straight line. We have to do exercises in order to do this. And now I'm not doing the one-arm seagull, for those of you who liked it. Now I'm sorry, this is just me about to fall over because I'm standing on one leg. You can't see that I'm standing on one leg? Trust me, I'm standing on one leg. So balance is really difficult. And one of the things that I find is that if I get really tired, my balance sense goes. Who knew? That also happens to my daughter, who gets vertigo when she's feeling poorly and has a migraine and gets vertigo as well. So that balance sense is tricky, and that's something to work on. It's something lots of people like balancing on trampolines. That's really good, actually, because it works on balance and it also gives you really good positive feedback. I'm not going to balance now. That would be embarrassing. Okay. Now the next one was smell. Oh, smell. Let me just set a scenario for you. So have any of you been to a primary school lately? Or in fact a secondary school? And walked past the toilets, and there's that smell. There's that smell you don't want to be anywhere near. Now, most of us will just walk past that smell and go, that's not very nice, let's just hold my breath and move on. Some people can't, literally cannot do that. That is like a barrier. It causes them distress. They have one chance of knowing how to deal with it, and that's just to leave. So it's fight or flight. You'll see a behaviour or you'll see an exit. And that makes life really, really difficult. There are some things you can do, and I've also got some nice sensory things, like if a child likes Vicks, for example, Vicks menthol spray, menthol petroleum spirit thing, you can put a tiny bit under your nose. So if there's ever something that you're going to go into an environment which is difficult from a sense point of view, you can just put a bit of that on. Or aromatherapy oils, if there are any aromatherapy oils that they really like. Lavender's very nice because it's calming. Rosemary's quite nice as well. It just depends which one you prefer. But that is really nice as a way of subverting the worst of the issues that you can have. What else do we have? So we've talked about sight, sound, taste, touch, hearing, proprioception, which is where you stop and where the world begins, and balance. Those are your 7 issues. So if they go wrong, if you're having too much of anything, and you're having a really sensitive day, that's an important point actually. These things change from day to day. If I had one handy, I'd show you. But if you imagine, stress is like a cup. And for most people, the cup starts empty. And you pour in liquid to the cup. As things happen, then this is the liquid that gets poured into the cup and the level rises. And as you have another stressor, it rises higher, another stressor rises higher. Well, often with people with sensory issues, and especially with autism, the anxiety level involved, the stress level involved starts high. And then you add in another stress thing like somebody's shouting and they're very sound sensitive, or it's too light, or the lights are flickering, or it's a smell that they just can't cope with, and that level gets to the top and then flows over, and then what you will see then is a fight, flight or freeze behaviour. So they'll have no choice but then to get out of the scenario, to clonk someone, or get angry or verbal, or to freeze. So some people, when overwhelmed, will just shut down. There's been a lot written lately about meltdowns and how people will lash out and it gets very difficult and they can get verbal, but there are equally a number of people who will just shut down and become really unresponsive, and that's another way of people trying to cope with it. Okay, hope that's been a little helpful. Sorry if I rambled a bit, but I'm still getting used to this. Leave me any comments. I apologise if I've said anything wrong. I'll try and put it right next time. Leave comments below and feel free to subscribe. Take care. Lovely to speak to you. Bye.